Powerful tornadoes are once again ripping through this country. And as I watch this wave of devastation unfold, I can't help but be reminded of the incredible events that happened in Joplin, Missouri back in May of 2011. An event so extraordinary that it left survivors convinced that heavenly beings intervened in a moment of desperation. You've probably heard of guardian angels. I mean, who hasn't, right? But what about angels actually steering tornadoes, shielding people from harm, and appearing vividly in broad daylight? I mean, it sounds unbelievable. It sounds like it's made up stories, but it's not, because multiple eyewitness testimonies from that tragic day tell us exactly what happened. And today we're going to talk about that. This is the butterfly people of Joplin, Missouri. So on May 22nd, 2011, Joplin was struck by one of the deadliest EF5 tornadoes in American history. It basically flattened entire neighborhoods. It claimed over 150 lives and left thousands of people homeless. Yet during the unimaginable destruction of this tornado, something miraculous happened. Survivors, especially children, began reporting that angelic figures, which were called the butterfly people, appeared to them during the tornado and even shielded them from deadly debris, and sometimes even seemingly redirecting the path of the storm itself. It's interesting, huh? Have you heard about this? So, for instance, one account, a young boy named Mason Lillard, he took shelter inside of a pickup truck. When the tornado's winds approached the truck, he recalls clearly seeing bright winged beings surrounding him and protecting the truck, protecting him and his family in the truck. These beings shielded them from the debris that was flying through the air. He described these beings as beautiful, human-like, comforting. Another story comes from a little child named Eli Morgan. He was trapped inside of a vehicle and survived the storm. And later on, Eli insisted that an angel had physically pulled him to safety. Also, a man named Joe was driving down the road at the time, and he recounted seeing vividly, several winged beings that were human-looking. They were above the street, they were floating. And he said that they literally appeared to direct and deflect the winds away from populated areas. Joe was adamant about what he saw. He described the beings as angels in a storm, powerfully guiding the storm and turning the tornado's trajectory. These reports came so widespread that even local pastors began openly discussing them. One pastor, his name is Pastor Wermuth, I believe it was, of the Lutheran church there, he recounted multiple first-hand stories from his congregation. Families started telling him repeatedly about angelic beings that physically shielded them during the storm, and even guiding them to safety. In fact, the descriptions were so detailed and similar to each other that it makes it really hard to deny. There's multiple unrelated witness testimonies that corroborate this phenomenon. It became accepted as a spiritual miracle by many within the community. So skeptics, obviously skeptics, they try to dismiss these encounters as hallucinations or trauma-based delusions or something like that. But here's the thing, guys. The sheer volume and consistency of the stories debunk that. Because how could they be trauma-based delusions if everybody's saying the same story? I know people who haven't experienced something like this might just, oh, well, this is impossible. Well, it's not impossible to these people. It's not impossible to the people who had it happen to them, is it? No. They're not seeking attention. They're just simply sharing what they had seen and experienced firsthand during one of the worst moments of their life, or maybe even the worst moments of their lives. So there's a lot of resources on the Joplin butterfly people if you want to deep dive into it. There's many articles written about it. There's a documentary written about it, and there's a lot of other resources that you can look at. However, I did find this article here from the Daily Herald, and we're going to read it right now because there's some really interesting stuff in here. Quote, May 22nd, 2011 is a date that most people around the town of Joplin, Missouri remember very well. It was on that day that an F5 tornado destroyed 900 homes and killed 161 people and left a landscape behind that resembled a foreign landscape on a barren planet. I remember watching the TV as images of the devastation were shown. It was of particular interest to me because the church denomination that I attended in my childhood had its headquarters in Joplin. The town's population is overwhelmingly Christian. Who would have thought? What I didn't see on the mainstream media was descriptions of the butterfly people. The TV series Monsters and Mysteries in America had a short documentary about these apparitions just last Sunday. Side note, this article is from April 27, 2021. The stories were told mainly by small children to parents in the hospital waiting rooms, standing in lines for water or donated food, and to the Red Cross counselors. Multiple children of varied ethnicities and socioeconomic status told eerily similar stories of seeing beautiful humanoid creatures with wings hovering above certain children and parents in the storm in a protective manner. They were described as colorful and pretty, so children called them the butterfly people. Most of these stories had common elements. The tornado hit their home. Often parents were praying. The roof was ripped off. Children saw the butterfly person descending down from the sky and covering them with their wings. Those particular children usually emerged from the wreckage in good condition. Another version states that children saw butterfly people carrying other adults up into the heavens, the ones that did not make it out alive. Presumably their souls. About one half of the children were counseled at Joplin Child Trauma Treatment Centers, set up in the schools after. The clinical director, Daniel Robinson, heard these stories firsthand from many of the children. Many of these children stated that they somehow knew that these butterfly people were there to calm them and to keep them safe. Todd C. Frankel of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch wrote an article about these apparitions entitled, "The Butterfly People of Joplin." It was December 19th, 2011. He described former newspaper reporter Marta Churchwell's investigation and interviews with these people. Marta is a natural skeptic and did not believe in angels. After numerous interviews, she cannot discount the possibility that so many children who did not know each other told similar stories. A book was written about these interviews entitled Butterflies at the Window, a story of the butterfly people and miracles in the storm. It was written by Mrs. Sandy J. Reynolds. A historical marker was erected for the butterfly people on Maiden Lane, North 26th Street and Gabby Boulevard. Butterfly murals came to dominate the town, along with butterfly sculptures, paintings, t-shirts, and business signs. Psychiatrists were quick to discount the phenomenon, of course they were, in the aftermath as simply a product of children's imagination due to stressful trauma. A way of helping them cope emotionally. That doesn't sound very convincing to me. All those children describing the same thing independently? A few parents saw them also. They gave their eyewitness testimonies on the TV show. One of them was a Red Cross volunteer lady who saw a butterfly person standing near a grieving family afterwards. I've always believed that small children and animals like dogs are able to see supernatural apparitions more readily than skeptical adults, perhaps because of their innocence and lack of formal education, which in our modern society is steeped in anti-supernaturalism. I've also heard of several eyewitness testimonies from friends who I knew who would not lie to me, who told me of seeing an angel. I find it interesting that most people in third world countries report supernatural phenomena like this rather routinely. It seems to be mainly in Western societies that all such reports are viewed with suspicion, a product of enlightenment and reliance on scientific community for the quote-unquote truth. Yeah, isn't that right? It's more compelling to me since these small children didn't have any theological training and didn't even know how to use the term angel. The adults had to figure that out. The Bible describes rather routinely and states even children have guardian angels. Amen to that. Why some people are killed and others protected and live is a deep question that is beyond my pay grade. My opinion is that if you are a skeptic and don't believe in prayer, then you are simply eliminating one possible avenue for help. These eyewitness accounts are fascinating to read. It's a shame that mainstream media avoid these eyewitness testimonies because of a fear of being made to look foolish or unprofessional. Perhaps it was best that the majority of these accounts were given by very small children who obviously were not colluding. It's really embarrassing and it looks unprofessional to ridicule small children for what they say they have seen. I think perhaps God intended it to be that way on May 22nd, 2011, end quote. Now this is very interesting, isn't it? And we know, I think it's Psalm 91:11 talks about how everybody's given a guardian angel. The incredible testimonies, like the ones of the butterfly people in Joplin, in my opinion, they serve as a sort of spiritual reminder to keep your eyes open and to never dismiss events just because they defy explanation. But that's just my opinion. I want to know what you think about this. Please put a comment below and tell everybody how you feel. Tell everybody your opinion on the butterfly people. What do you think they are? Do you think they're just made up by these kids, or do you think they're real? Do you think they're angels from God? Please put your opinion below. And if you haven't done so already, please hit that like button. And we'll see you guys next time. God bless you all.